You ever come home and wonder if maybe, just maybe, the universe is playing some long, drawn-out prank on you? Because that's exactly how I felt that day, rolling up my driveway, dogs barking like they'd spotted a pack of wild coyotes and staring at a full-blown 18-wheeler. Yeah, a monstrous semi, parked right across my gate. The kind of sight that burns itself into your eyes so deep you almost laugh at how out of place it is. I mean, a semi in the suburbs? That's like finding a whale flopping around in a desert parking lot. And the cab door? Swung wide open, like someone got out in a hurry and just left the whole beast for the world to see. Now, I'm not stupid. I know a setup when I see one. This wasn't some delivery gone wrong, and it sure wasn't an accident. No, this was a statement, a stunt, a shot fired across the bow. And if I knew anything about my neighbor Karen and her little HOA battalion, I'd bet my last cup of coffee this whole mess was designed to humiliate me in front of everybody within shouting distance. You want to ding me for mailbox color? Fine. You want to hand out fines for the length of my grass? Take your best shot. But dumping a whole semi-truck in my driveway? That's war. You know what I mean? So I did what any reasonable person would do. I took a deep breath, boots grinding in the gravel, and I walked up to that hulk of metal, my dogs going berserk behind the fence, tails up and teeth bared, like even they could sense the line that had just been crossed. All the while, I could feel the neighbors peeking from their porches, pretending to check the mail, watering plants that didn't need it, just to get a look at the guy with a semi parked in his front yard. The gossip mill was already running hot. But I wasn't going to give them a show, not the one they expected, anyway. I swung the gate wide open, walked the truck all the way in, and locked that thing up tight, the chain snapping shut with a sound that echoed through the whole street like a starting pistol. Now the semi was on my property, behind my lock. Let's see how Karen likes that. Thing is, Karen never did anything unless she wanted a reaction. Control was her game. Chaos was her weapon. She'd been itching to pick a fight with me ever since I refused to pay some ridiculous fine over a half-inch of grass. My place sat right where the subdivision ended and the ranch land started. Too close to her kingdom, too far for her to easily boss me around. This was her way of reminding me she could still. And waited. Didn't take long for the rumors to turn into wildfire. Neighbors just out for a walk stopped to gawk. Someone asked if I was getting a special delivery, and when I said, flat out, Karen arranged it, his eyes about popped out of his head. I just kept my cool, locked the gate, and let the story spin itself into a bigger and bigger spectacle. The crazier the setup looked, the calmer I got, the more it looked like Karen had lost her grip on reality. That evening, as the sun set and the steel of that truck gleamed like a monument to stubbornness, my phone started buzzing. Pictures, laughing emojis, questions. I just sent back a photo of the locked gate. No explanation needed. Just before dark, Karen herself finally rolled up in her spotless SUV, storming out in heels and pearls, voice shrill and rehearsed as she started shouting across the fence, demanding to know why there was a semi-truck in my driveway. I let her stew, gave her the silence she hates, then finally walked down and said, "It's on my land now, Karen, and it's not moving till we figure out whose it is." She sputtered, threatened, raged, talked about community, safety and HOA fines, but I could see it in her eyes, the panic behind the act. She never thought I'd turn her trick back on her. She wanted a reaction, a fight, some reason to flex her power. What she got instead was the world's biggest paperweight and a neighborhood full of people watching her lose her mind in public. And right then, I realized the real game had only just started. By the next morning, it was clear Karen was already plotting her next move. She didn't just show up alone. She brought backup. 2 other board members, all of them wielding official-looking citations like swords. They hammered me with rules, fines, threats, even tried handing me a stack of violation notices typed up overnight. I just stood there, let them say their piece, then asked the only question that mattered. Whose truck is it? They dodged, bluffed, Karen's jaw twitching as she refused to answer. Meanwhile, the crowd of neighbors was growing, some filming, some trying to hide their grins. For once, Karen wasn't just fighting me. She was fighting her own image, and it was slipping away with every second. I stayed calm, told her the truck was my problem. Now, behind my locked gate, and unless someone proved it was theirs, it wasn't going anywhere. That sent her into a meltdown. her bored flunkies trying to calm her down, but the more she yelled, the funnier it looked. Word spread like spilled gasoline. The guy at the feed store joked I was running a new shipping company. Folks at the diner offered to use the trailer for a garage sale sign. Even the sheriff gave me a sly nod when I passed him on Main Street. The semi was no longer a problem. It was a punchline. Karen's drama was backfiring. She tried again, threatened legal action, said the sheriff would charge me with storing an abandoned vehicle. I asked, for the third time, if she could prove it wasn't hers. She dodged, bluffed, spun stories. But this time, her confidence was all smoke and mirrors. Bluffing was her specialty. Too bad for her. I'd learned how to play the waiting game. The days turned into a week. The semi became a landmark. Kids chalked up the trailer. With cartoons, someone tied a balloon to the side mirror. Neighbors dropped off little trinkets at the gate. Karen's rage only grew, but every time she raised her voice, she lost more ground. At one point, she tried to document me, taking photos, scribbling notes, threatening to report me to the HOA's legal department. But her audience just laughed, her performance feeding the spectacle. One night, I caught her crouched by the lock with bolt cutters, my dogs barking her off into the darkness, her escape illuminated by the neighbors' flashlights and muffled giggles. Yeah, that happened. So I doubled down, strung up holiday lights, turned the whole thing into a neon beacon. Christmas in July. The neighbors brought lawn chairs. Kids danced in the glow. The semi became a roadside attraction. People drove in from out of town just to see it. Karen tried everything. Another tow company. They left when I showed the cameras and the deed. Late-night sabotage. Caught on tape. Pictures posted on the fence for everyone to see. Even an emergency HOA meeting. Half the board didn't show up. The rest left early. And the only thing anyone wanted to talk about was the semi. I'll be honest, part of me started to worry she'd never stop. People like Karen don't give up when they're losing, they get desperate. And sure enough, one night, she brought in real muscle, a crew of big guys with bolt cutters and bad attitudes. I was ready, called the sheriff as they started working the lock, and within minutes red and blue lights lit up the road. Karen tried to spin another story, but the sheriff shut her down, read her the riot act, and sent her home soaked in rain and humiliation. Her goons scattered. Her reputation fell apart, and for the first time, I saw her shrink. That was the twist I hadn't expected. Karen's war had become her own undoing. But here's where the real bombshell dropped. One day, a delivery guy poking around the semi asked me to check the back door, said it looked loose. I popped it open and nearly lost my footing. The trailer wasn't empty. It was jammed with crates, boxes, receipts, and files, enough paperwork to sink a ship. And right there in the middle, invoices, manifests, payment slips, all with names, signatures, and dates pointing to shady dealings. Missing materials, fake cleanups, funds that never made it where they were supposed to. Karen's name, the HOA treasurer's initials, even photos of dump sites and equipment. It wasn't just a neighborhood feud anymore. This was criminal. I did what I had to do. Photographed everything, cataloged the mess, and called the sheriff. Detectives came by, collected the evidence, opened a full investigation. And as the story shifted from gossip to headlines, the neighborhood went quiet. Karen's supporters jumped ship, board members ghosted her, and the rumor mill, once her favorite weapon, turned on her for good. When the truth finally landed, it did so with the weight of real justice. At the next HOA meeting, Karen tried to spin her old story, but the sheriff and the detectives were waiting with paperwork, evidence, and warnings about the right to remain silent. Neighbors, some who'd never stood up to her before, started raising their own complaints, their own memories of being bullied and threatened. Karen tried to shout everyone down, but the more she screamed, the smaller she looked. When the deputies asked her to step outside for questions, she left, not in handcuffs, but with a silence heavier than any jail cell. I stood in the back, watching as the crowd emptied out into the dusk, the semi's lights still glowing down the road, marking the spot where everything had changed. That truck was never just a nuisance. It was a monument to Karen's downfall, to neighborhood resilience, to the truth that can only stay hidden for so long. Soon, the county towed the semi away, this time by court order, not Karen's petty games. It disappeared down the road, leaving nothing behind but ruts in the gravel, chalk drawings, and the laughter of neighbors finally free from her grip. Karen vanished, her empire of intimidation gone, her allies scattered, her name whispered now only in stories about how not to run a community. And me? I sat on my porch, locked the gate behind me, and let the silence roll in. Peaceful, earned, and so sweet. The land was mine, the fight was over, and the lesson, well, that was carved into every tire rut. Sometimes, the best way to win is to stand your ground and let the truth do the rest. Now, tell me, was I right to stand firm? Or did I take it too far? Drop your thoughts below, share your wildest neighbor stories, and let's hear where you stand when community, control, and good old-fashioned stubbornness collide.